Welcome, everybody, to our 46th, I believe, live town hall here in Douglas County. My name is Abe Layden, District 1 County Commissioner. And as we always say, we work for you, not the other way around. So we are always really thrilled to have citizens here with us. You are our bosses, and so we really appreciate the opportunity to have conversation, enter into dialogue, and really get your perspective in terms of how you view issues that are percolating in and around your community. Tonight, we are talking about our Douglas County Homeless Initiative, and I want to doubly thank you for being here because we know the Avs game starts at 6. We are going to go to 6:30 because we know you have a lot of questions, so we're going to try to get through this, but we'll stick around for another half hour for those that want to continue to ask questions of us. We'll take your questions and feedback about everything you're seeing on this topic. We do have a lot of interest tonight. If we don't get to your questions, you can email us at citizenconnect@douglas.co.us. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Teal.
Thanks a lot, Abe. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody. George Teal, your 2nd District County Commissioner. Well, we have a lot of information to share with you this evening, and we want to make sure that we get all of your questions. If you're joining us on the phone, please press *3 on your telephone keypad, and you will be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information. Once the operator notes your information, you'll be returned to the call and can listen in until it's your turn. For those online, please submit your questions and our moderator will read it out loud. We will also take questions from those of you here in the room with us this evening. Commissioner Thomas, you want to take it from there?
Thank you, Commissioner Teal, and thank you to everyone for joining us this evening. In addition to taking your questions, we want to know what you think. Near the end of tonight's call, we'll take an informal poll about the overall direction we're heading with the Homeless Initiative. You know, you can always send us your questions or feedback by email, so you can go to citizenconnect@douglas.co.us. I'll say that one more time. citizenconnect@douglas.co.us. That's a way for you to email the commissioners, and I can tell you that I answer emails when they come in, so thank you for communicating with us. And Roger's our master of ceremonies, so Roger, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, commissioners. Again, we want to get to as many questions as we can tonight. So if you are on the phone, as Commissioner Teal mentioned, press *3 on your telephone keypad. You'll be transferred to an operator who will take down some basic information and get you in the queue. Once the operator notes your information, you'll be returned to the call and can listen until it's your turn, and then I'll call your name out and we'll ask you to please repeat your question for the live audience. Since we'd like to hear from as many people as possible, including all of you here in the room, we'll ask you to limit yourself to one question and to be as brief as possible so that we can get to as many people as possible when it's your turn. You can also participate online by visiting douglas.co.us/town hall. Back to you, Commissioner Layden.
Thank you so much, Roger. So let's just level set a little bit. I think the big question is, why are we here? Why are we talking about homelessness in Douglas County? This is one of the safest, most clean places in the entire state, if not the entire country. We're consistently ranked the healthiest county in the country, and we're really proud of that. That's not because of government. That's because of you. You pay your taxes, you care for your families, and as a result of that, this county is completely out of debt as of this year. We have a balanced budget in Douglas County, and we returned the largest tax cut in the history of the county back to you. We believe in being careful with every single dollar, but I'll just walk it back for you candidly. How this all started was a couple of years ago. The city of Lone Tree had their sustainability cleanup where volunteers were out just picking up trash in parks. So I volunteered with my son. This was August of 2020. And my son and I are just in shorts walking around with trash bags, picking up litter and debris. And we encountered an encampment right at the Target at Lincoln and I-25, if you've been there. And I was shocked. I mean, Lone Tree is a beautiful community. They've done a great job with their work up there. But I found liquor bottles, there was drug paraphernalia. And so I did what you all probably might do. You know, you call me, I called up my local city councilman, Jay Carpenter at City of Lone Tree. I said, Jay, I got to tell you, there's an encampment right here. I can't believe it. And he's like, well, Commissioner, I hate to tell you, but I'm out here volunteering too. And I found an encampment right here by the Chili's. That Chili's right at Lincoln and I-25. At that encampment, he found the same paraphernalia, little girls' underwear, all kinds of things that really gave us pause. So, fast forward, we now have a Douglas County Homeless Initiative made up of 60 different partners. That they're faith-based community. We've got law enforcement, we have human services, members of our nonprofits, and citizens. We also have representatives from every single municipality on that board. So if you haven't been represented in person, you have been represented by your elected officials in each town and city. So as we've had this conversation, we've developed this concept of the 4 C's. And you might have heard a little bit about it, but it's leading with compassion. We recognize that being unhoused isn't a crime. We don't want anybody to be thrown in jail because they don't have a home. But then it goes right to code enforcement, community services, and communications. So the code enforcement piece is really critical. We've launched the HEART team, which is the Homeless Engagement Assistance Resource Team. The beauty of that team is it's a law enforcement officer paired with a navigator. So if you've heard about our mental health initiative, we have a CRT program, which is not the traditional CRT you might have heard about, which is a little bit different. It's the community response team. It has been a massive savings for our DA's budgets, our law enforcement budgets, because people don't end up in jail and they don't end up in hospitals. They end up being directed to services. So in the same way, the HEART team is able to go out. You can call the HEART team if you see somebody at an intersection, and that team can go out, engage with them, and provide services. Now, if those individuals are service resistant, then they will be asked to move along. So one of the big problems we've heard from our municipalities is, tents in front of a Home Depot or a Costco. I will tell you, as one of your commissioners, that is my concern. I want to make sure that Douglas County is safe and clean, and you can go to your stores and do the normal things you want to do. Right now, under the law enforcement can do this much. And for those listening online, I'm holding up a big 0. Nothing to those people that are camping unless there's a place for them to go. So there's a case called People versus Wymold. It's a Larimer County District Court case where, sir, we're going to conduct this in an orderly fashion. You must be Mike Campbell, right? Are you Mike? Are you the guy that produced the video without the information? Okay. Sir, you'll have an opportunity to speak, but I hope you. Okay, well let's make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak tonight. Yeah, we've seen the propaganda that you've put out, but we're going to try to respond to that and make sure everybody has a chance to speak. We know that you were really active on a political campaign against George Teal when he was running, so we want to keep politics out of this conversation tonight. So I'll finish and I'll make sure you have an opportunity to speak and everybody else does too. But that People versus Wymold case is significant. There's another case in Boulder right now. ACLU sued Boulder of all places because there wasn't a place for people to go. So right now we can attempt to enforce the law and have law enforcement go out, but without that particular location, it's tough for that to be enforced. So let me just follow up. That is our HEART team. The HEART team is going to be super successful. We actually got $1 million from Congress. So this isn't it is your tax dollars, but it's not coming out of general fund. That $1 million is for the Goals facility in Arapahoe County. So that serves Douglas County citizens, but it's wraparound. So it's not just food and shelter for a night. It's mental health services, substance abuse treatment. It's also job counseling. It's a partnership with 80 Works. Our focus here, we're conservatives, we're Republicans. We want to see individuals move back to self-reliance. So that program's great. It's in Arapahoe County. The only problem is it only serves families. So that's great, but if you're a single person and you're out in the middle of a street somewhere, you can't be served by the Goals facility. So one last piece, the final C is communications. And we're thankful that all the municipalities have gotten on board with uniform signage throughout the county that will encourage people, don't hand money out of your windows. So we've got really amazing citizens that are generous, compassionate. They're rolling down the windows of their SUVs and handing $100 out of a window. That's not safe for them. It's also not safe for the person receiving the funds, and it only incentivizes the problem. So we're encouraging people to donate to the Douglas County Community Foundation. That's dccf.org. Don't hand money out of your window and call the HEART team. But again, in order to have that heart team operate, they need to have a place to go. So we are talking about sheltering. That's a big part of what we're discussing tonight. I just want to be really clear. I have no desire to have any kind of tent city in Douglas County. Be really clear about that. Anything that we do would have to be clean, aesthetic, safe, case managed, secure, camouflaged, out of the way. And again, the whole purpose of that is to underscore our code enforcement and support the men and women in blue that are doing their jobs every day with the heart team. So with that, let me turn it over to, we do have Chief Kirk Wilson from the Lone Tree Police Department and Chief Deputy Kevin Duffy with the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. We'll also hear from our Executive Director of Human Services for Douglas County, Dan McKelkey, and then Jennifer Eby, our Assistant Director of Community Services. So with that, I'd love to take 2 hearing room questions. And why don't we start with the gentleman who was vocal beginning with, Mike Campbell. We're going to come right to you and hand you the mic.
So I have one question. So my first question is just, it's more of a statement. I have witnessed how this board that you're on is run over the past couple of years, and you should be treating each other like colleagues, and you don't. You guys run this like czars. We have a third elected official on there on our board that I think should have a third of her say as well. So, I mean, if I'm going to actually honestly say what I want to say, I would cede my time to her because I don't trust either one of you to actually listen to our voice. But I would say this. I do think that this will be a magnet. We don't live in Mogadishu. These are not people displaced by third world economic. They're not displaced by economic reasons. Drug abuse is a choice. Homelessness is a choice. We offer, especially in Douglas County, like you said before, countless programs for these people. They choose not to do that. What they choose to do is make meth in these homeless encampments, like that one in Denver that they have closed down. What they choose to do is, who knows God what they did with that girl's underwear that you were talking about. That is these people. We have a friend walking in Denver who her boyfriend got stabbed in the skull with a screwdriver because they were walking their dog. These are not the people to invite. And what happens when this, I call it Teal Town and Laydenville because it's a Hooverville, it's a shanty. What happens when this is full? You can't move people along if there's no beds. And so I'm afraid this big government compassionate, it's creating a problem so you can take credit for the solution. And I think that's what this is. I don't think we have a huge problem here in Dougco. According to your own numbers, we have about 50 or 70 homeless people. 96% of them admit they don't live here, they don't sleep here, they're transient. Now we're going to take them and give them an air conditioning pod with probably safe injection needle sites, probably with air conditioning, probably with whatever else services we're going to give them. And we are going to hurt the effort of our law enforcement. We're going to hurt our regional hospital. We are going to destroy the essence of Dougco. Dougco is not Denver. Keep Denver, Denver. Keep Dougco, Dougco. We are here for a reason. And we are not in Denver, and these problems are not anything that we need to invite.
That's great.
Oh, can I say one more thing? One more thing, and I won't interrupt. One more thing, and I won't interrupt.
Sure, go ahead.
One more thing. I know that I'm a little bit of an idealist when there are 2 court cases that are cited. This one in Fort Collins and the ACLU and the Boulder blanket ban. Both of these are lower district court cases. So regardless of what the ruling is, there's no binding effect on Dougco. It is a precedent, but on a non-binding court. So therefore,
two different lawyers about that.
what I would say is, why are we following the ruling of a liberal activist judge or the ACLU? And we all elect you to protect us. We're the people that do the majority of the living and the dying and the bread and the sweating in this county, and stop taking victims and raising them up to sainthood. Because
don't want 'em
We
here.
don't follow the ACLU. Just, you know what? Honestly, grow a pair and fight it. Appeal it. Appeal it. Appeal it. Appeal it. And you have a $3 to $5 million budget for this, is my understanding. You're buying land. Just take that money and protect us. That's all I'm saying.
So, Mike, thank you for that. I mean, listen,
I'm not a political activist. Honestly,
well,
this is me.
as a citizen, you're a boss. So yeah, all of you are bosses, and I agree with you. That's the whole reason I'm doing this, is to keep Douglas County safe. So let me be real clear.
You can't make a utopia. You said you want net.
Can I respond? I listened while you were talking, so I'm going to respond. Okay. They're already here. And the question is, do you want 3 people on your sidewalk in a tent that you can't move and the police can't do anything about?
They'll be moved. You know, and
Right.
I would rather have Teddy Roosevelt with the Billy Club moving these people and say, get the hell out of Dodge. That's what we want.
Their law enforcement will not do that because they can't, and they've told us that. Well, my question for you is, so we've had a series of homeless initiative meetings for the last year. How many of those have you been to? They've all been publicly posted. Okay. All right. Well, listen, those have all been open to the public, and we continue to invite folks. But I agree with you. Like what I saw was a reaction to an encampment right off of Lincoln. It's exactly saying what you're saying. We want to keep Douglas County safe and clean. So I understand that. Does anybody on the panel want to respond to some of the issues raised by Mr. Campbell? Chief Duffy. So we're gonna allow the panel to respond. Though.
So first of all, I just want to thank you all for coming here. My name is Kevin Duffy, and I'm the law enforcement chief deputy for the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. So I have the patrol division, the investigations division, and the Highlands Ranch division. Okay. So there's a lot of things that I was hoping to bring here tonight just to get an understanding, because I am with the Commissioner Layden that we need to hear from you guys, because we serve you, we work for you. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions, and they've already started coming out about preconceived notions about what you see or what you think you see. And tonight I just wanted to bring you some realistic things that we're seeing at the Sheriff's Office in law enforcement. So almost a year ago, I've met with all the commanders of the Lone Tree, Castle Rock Police Department and the Douglas County Sheriff's Office so we could come together as a united front to how are we going to handle the homeless, because we were seeing the homeless contacts by our patrolmen rise every day, and it was impacting all of us. So I started keeping track every month of our homeless calls, the calls that we're getting from you as the citizens, what was going on. So I just wanted to share those with you tonight so that you can listen to this with a true and honest understanding of what is out there. So just so far this year, from January to May, the Douglas County patrol officers have contacted 114 homeless people that we've been called to or we've come across. 88% of those are men, 12% of those are female. We're starting to see more females homeless on the street, which bothers me greatly. Many of the females that we come in contact are living in their cars and they're escaping domestic abuse. Okay. So no, that's not a choice. Okay. They're not drug addicts. They're not thieves. They're escaping abuse. And the only place that they can stay where they're safe is in a car. That's unacceptable for me. And I'm sure it's unacceptable for you. I'm going to keep going because I think people want to hear what I have to say. So the calls that we get, 32% of all the calls that we've gotten from our citizens are, the number one call we get is a welfare check. You see a person that you're concerned about and you want your officers to go over there and check on them. They're not doing anything wrong. They haven't committed any crime, but you have compassion. I want you to go check on that person to make sure they're okay. The next highest call we get is suspicious person. A person doesn't look right. We're not sure what's going on. Can you guys come over here and check this person? Then the next highest call load is unwanted subjects. Those typically are the person has gone into a fast food restaurant, have gone into a Starbucks, have gone into a gas station. And when the management asks them, would you please leave? They've been here for an hour, right? And they refuse to leave. They call us for an unwanted subject. And this is something that you should hear. We'll go and enforce the law, right? The first thing we do is we go talk to that complainant, that person who called us. What do you want us to do? Across the board. And I'm hearing this from the commanders in their neighborhoods too. They always tell us the same thing. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I don't want anybody to go to jail. Could you just please ask this person to leave? We go up to that person, we talk to them, right? We tell them the situation. You've been asked to leave. If you don't leave, you can be criminally charged. Almost every one of them, I want to leave. I just don't know how to get out of here. Okay, we can help you with that. We take them to the RTD station. Our officers are buying them tickets and they want to go back to Denver. Okay, that's happening every day. We have 11% of our calls are just routine patrol. Our guys are driving around. They see that person. They go over there and contact them. They're laying on in a park or they're on a trail. So what I'm getting at is we don't have this huge crime spree going on in Douglas County. These are routine calls that our patrolmen take every day. We have a few crimes. We've arrested people for trespassing when they refuse to leave. Okay, you're going to jail, right? Disturbances. The one thing that's got me nervous, because I see it more and more, the homeless population in the metro area is getting pushed around so much that when we just approach them to talk to them, just to have a conversation, the fight's on, right? Because they're ready to go, because they think we're going to treat them like Denver, right? And all we want to do is talk to them, find out what's going on. Where did you come from? How did you get to Douglas County? That's the first question we ask these people. How'd you get here? And the number one way is RTD, right? They're coming down on the light rail. They're coming down on the buses. Then the light rail stops or the buses, or they miss their bus. Now they're stuck down here and they can't figure out how to get back out of here. And we help them with that. Panhandling. I want to address that. One of the misconceptions is when you see the panhandler on the street, everybody's automatically assuming that's a homeless person. We have contacted hundreds of panhandlers in the last year. Across the board, they're not homeless. They're just down here collecting money, okay? And when we ask them, why? Why Douglas County? They're taking the light rail, they come out, they hit the streets, and they start panhandling. And again, we have a very empathetic and generous community, and they'll roll the window down, and they'll hand them that $20 bill. They don't get $20 bills up in Denver, and they know that. So with the Douglas County Mental Health Initiative and some of the plans we have put together with the signage, I think we can put a curb to that. We can dry up those fishing, what I call the fishing holes, and make it so it's not popular for them to do anymore, and still use the same generosity that you have shown, but give that $20 to an organization that can do some good with it. Don't just hand it to a homeless person, because I don't know what they're going to do with it, but it's usually probably not for anything good. Now, the jail, which the Douglas County Sheriff's Office is responsible for. That's another thing that we need to understand. In the jail, just this year alone, we've had 182 inmates come into our jail. They were homeless when they were arrested, and then they're homeless when they leave, okay? So some of the stats that I want you guys to understand is what we're dealing with. Of the 114 contacts patrol has made with homeless, 69% are not from Douglas County. They have come here, either from Denver or Colorado Springs. 27% on top of that aren't even from Colorado. They're just traveling through. I call them the travelers. They're coming from Texas and they want to get to Oregon, and they're just traveling through, and we contacted them while they're in Douglas County. So here in Douglas County, 4% of our contacts are actually Douglas County residents. In the jail, our inmates that are coming into our jail, 86% are not Douglas County residents, but they were arrested, or usually for warrants or for committing some type of crime here in Douglas County where we house them in our jail. So only 14% of the people coming into our jail are homeless. So those are some of the numbers, and I'd be glad to answer any questions because our patrol guys are out there every day, along with Cass Rock, Parker, and Lone Tree, contacting these homeless. We know what the homeless people, what really is going on because we're talking to them every day. Chief?
So so the nice thing is you can hear right from the horse's mouth from law enforcement, human services, but let's get to your questions. Yes, sir.
The first comment I want to make is that the battered women escaping domestic violence, as I understand it, they have resources. So to say that the homeless people that we see, I just moved from Denver in November. The homeless that we see there, the homeless that cause a problem, are not people escaping domestic violence. They have the facilities. I'm assuming that's correct. But in addition to that, so it's unfair to classify these homeless people who are really drug addicts who have mental health issues as being people who need services like that. And my question is, if 14% or whatever small percent of those people who are in jail were not from here, why would we create a place for them to come and stay with 70 chairs? So do you have statistics on the other areas in Denver of how crime has increased or what crime has looked like once you've put in this temporary housing?
Thanks for that question. Who would like to respond?
I will respond, but I do want to turn it over to Chief Wilson. So we have started what we call the reintegration program in the jail, right? So one of the things that we're doing with the inmates coming out of this jail that no other jail does, we start working on reintegration, not when they leave, but the minute they come into our jail, we start formulating a plan of what we are going to do when they get released. The average length of stay in a county jail is 15 days. These people are not going to be in our jail that long, but we come up with a plan with our reintegration program, and now we have the commissioners just gave approval for a deputy to take that inmate who came from Denver, come up with a reintegration plan, put them in a car, and we take them back to Denver. That's where they came from, and that's where we're going to take them back to. And the truth of the matter is, that's where they want to go. They just, when you walk out of our jail right now, we have no public transportation in Cass Rock. So we have really been compounding the problem in the city of Cass Rock because they were released from the jail and they had no way to get out of Cass Rock. So now we as the sheriff's office have come up with a plan along with the HEART team to get these people from our jail back to where they came from, Colorado Springs. We'll drive them up to Fort Collins if we have to, but we're going to get them where they need to go so they don't become Cass Rock homeless or Douglas County homeless. So we already have a plan in place for that, but that's a very good question. Well,
I will help with that point.
Yeah.
That is the key issue. And let me just explain. I'm on your side. Our goal. So his question was, why have a shelter in Douglas County? That is right. Well, so let me be clear about that. We haven't made any decisions about a location yet. Now, to be transparent, our staff has been looking at different locations. They looked at the area between human services and the jail, but they've been looking all over the county. No decision has been made. That will be made together. And let me be really clear. Our goal is to get to functional zero on homelessness. So we agree with you. I mean, I'm a fifth generation Coloradan. I testified against the camping ban down at the Senate. So I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Question, not this isn't my ultimate question, but just a level set. You guys keep referring to this. There's a law that says we can't tell somebody who has a tent in front of Costco to move along. I don't understand what that means in terms of we have to build this or else. And if we do have to build it, what happens if we say, screw you, we're not doing it?
That's the right question. That's what I was asking myself. I'm like, I don't want to have any kind of tent city here. If we have anything, it's got to be safe, clean, aesthetic, case managed. But why have it at all? And what I heard back from law enforcement is that when they engage with people, that everyone, is anybody here not seen someone at a corner panhandling? Anybody? I mean, we have all experienced that. So law enforcement told us they can't do anything unless there is a place for them to go. And so instead of hearing from me, I am an attorney, but I'll direct that question to Amy from our legal staff to provide that legal. Yeah.
So a couple of, well, one, thanks everybody for being here. And I think, I came from the Springs 5 years ago. We had a huge problem there with homelessness and camps. And had a lot of challenges that we faced there. And then I've been in Lone Tree for 5 years, and we certainly are facing challenges very similar to what Chief Duffy's talking about. It's a little different because we do have the light rail station right there. We have a lot more impromptu contacts. 25% of everybody we arrest in Lone Tree are actually transients. So we've had a real uptick in our contacts with male transients for the most part. As far as your issue when you're talking about what we can and can't do, so it's a whole nother matter. So there's private property and there's public property. Okay, so when you have private property like a Costco or a Safeway, we can do something about that, and we do every day. We find it. The 2 camps that that Abe was talking about, those are on private property. We go contact the property owner, confirm they do not want these things here. We can very quickly, and it's actually the property owner's responsibility to clean up the property. And we've had to do that many times, and I'm sure I know the county has as well. So private property is a whole nother issue. It's public property that we start running into real issues with, like parks, right? And along open space areas and things like that. That's when some of these things kick in, when we run into some legal issues and we try to move someone off public property if they have no place to go. So that's what I just want to clarify. There is a big difference between private property and public property. And private property, quite frankly, is much easier to manage. Public property can be more difficult. And camping bans and things like that, again, have unfortunately failed through many court systems throughout the country. And that's kind of what we are keeping our eye on. So I don't know if you want to add anything more to that from a legal standpoint.
I can, sure.
Yep.
So-
I think she's going to explain that. Amy, if you want to introduce
So
who you are.
there are a number of cases across the country that it's a legal trend where essentially you can't criminalize homelessness. So it's not a choice unless there is a bed available and they choose not to go to the bed when they're asked to move along, then it does become a choice. And so that's where this is hinging on. And so essentially, and I know that I believe Mike had pointed out that these 2 cases that we're talking about in Boulder and Larimer County aren't binding on us. They are precedent for Colorado. And they're following what other circuit courts are doing across the country. And so if we, want to try to enforce a camping ban without having beds available, we are opening ourselves up to potential very expensive litigation. And that is a risk.
50 beds, and according to what I'm understanding, is maybe we have 100 homeless people. So in a week it's full. So all
Sir, so nobody can hear you yet, and you've had a couple of opportunities to respond. Let's make sure
As
that
a
somebody
matter
else
of
has a
fact,
chance
hey,
to
before we
speak.
get
Yeah.
going, who would like to know if I have
Online.
voted to set up a Teal Town here in Castle Rock? Who would like to know that? Okay, we will get to that answer just as soon as we take a few phone questions. Roger?
All right, let's hear from Xenia next, or first on the phone. Go ahead. Thank you.
Hello. Yes. Can you hear me?
We can. Go right ahead.
Okay. My question was, what do you all think is the reason for this mounting cases of homelessness here? But I've heard, but I work with community support services in Atlanta, Georgia, before moving here to Colorado. And what we did was we worked with the homelessness people, the homeless people. I'm so sorry. But anyway, what we did was educate them, provide resources for them. And before my husband passed, we were even going to set up a home for the homeless people there, the families there, as you all are trying to do. But what we must realize, while we're pointing fingers as to why these people are homeless and saying that this is something that they want to do, statistics will show that the majority of the homelessness is from veterans. And the majority of these people have mental illnesses that has caused this to happen. Now, as for the mothers, and women who are battered, and we also have men who are battered. We have young people in Atlanta on the streets are covered downtown, and Atlanta is a place where tourists like
So,
to
ma'am,
go.
I appreciate the conversation around Atlanta. Do you have a question for our panel?
Well, you all answered my question.
Okay.
You all answered. All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Teal, is it okay if we get to this fine young lady in the front row? I want to honor the people that took the time to drive here and be here.
My problem is that I have had people on corners and I have rolled down my window and I have said, I can help offer you a job. Not a single person wants it. Not a single person takes it. They turn their back and they walk away. We've had homeless since Christ. We've always had churches who have helped, and there are tons of centers, as these men have said. If they're interested, they can get help. Any one of us would help any one of them. But I think you're causing a complete devastation, because what'll start with, how many are you? You haven't even told us where. You don't know. How many people? Is it 12? Is it 120? We've gotten answers all over the place. Point is, we didn't allow vagrancy 40 years ago, and we shouldn't allow it now. We can do it. You weren't allowed to camp overnight. You were moved. You were told if you didn't move, you were going to jail. We used to have mental health facilities. We used to take them there. We have all kinds of homeless centers today. So I don't agree with you, men. And what I don't like is you say you work for us, and you've come to a couple of our meetings, and I don't know you well, but I've met you, but I don't think you work together. And the only one that I have seen here that seems to really listen to the people, and it's not because she's a woman, is Laura Thomas. She has fought for what we want. You two men are on your own plane. And so, no, when you said you're smooth, I don't think you're so smooth. I don't think this is a smart, smooth move. Thank you.
Ma'am, I respect that. I think our panel can answer that question, but that's the whole issue for me. I wanted to make sure that law enforcement could move encampments along. People that are literally having liquor bottles and drug paraphernalia by a target, why can't they be moved? The response I got from law enforcement is we can't do anything. So how about we have legal and law enforcement respond? Sir, no, people can't hear you online unless you have the mic, and you've had several opportunities to speak. I know you're a big Laura Thomas supporter. I get it. This is not about politics. We're here to hear from our panel. Okay. I'm going to turn it to our law enforcement.
One of the things that I'd like to address is, because I'm glad you brought it up, and that's in the 90s, they shut all the mental institutions down, right? Where did those people go? They went on the street, and then they went to the jails, right? And the county jails up and down the Front Range, all over the country, the county jails became the mental health facilities. And that's not what county jails are for. Okay? So we agree on that. We cannot arrest our way out of this, right? We cannot start arresting every homeless person we come across and throw them in the county jail, because who's paying for that? All of us. It's not cheap to hold someone in the county jail and then to try to get them through the court system on a minor charge like trespassing or something like that. It's just that we can't arrest our way out of this. And the other thing, that we can only enforce the laws that we can enforce. One of the things that is frustrating to law enforcement, we will be called to a homeless person, sleeping in a stairwell at a hotel or in a lobby, right? We go there. They're like, this person can't be here. We're like, we're totally in agreement with you. What do you want to do? We can charge them. And they tell us, the manager, I don't have the authority to authorize you to make an arrest. Only corporate can make that authority, and they won't give that to me. We hear that time and time again from hotel managers, gas station managers, because corporate doesn't want to get involved in this. All they want to do is move them along, which is what we try to do. Most of the time, we get compliance. To answer the question about the shelters, absolutely not. We're not going to take an inmate out of the jail who just got released and then go put them in a shelter, right? That doesn't solve anything. Again, our reintegration program, we're going to get them where they need to go, out back to where they came from, not from Douglas County. So that's some of the, and I'm very afraid that with some of the fears that are out there, the homeless, that the easiest solution is just arrest them and put them in jail. We'll fill up our county jails, and that's not a solution.
Answers to the point in time and the exact number. This is Dan McKelkey and Jen Eby from Human Services and Community Development.
Yeah, so just to answer your question about how many people are actually here, we do every year a count. We call it the point in time count. It is a count that we do on one day of the year, one night. We do it in January. And the count includes those who are unsheltered in emergency shelters, which would include like hotel vouchers in our winter shelter network, or those who are just in transitional housing. So when we're looking at that point in time count, and I'm going to actually leave out 2021 because COVID made everything a little bit challenging to count. Apples to oranges here. But when we were looking at 2020, our count was 53 homeless people on that night in January. This year, 2022, it was 72. It doesn't sound like a lot. It is a 43% increase. And I would say that given that increase, the homeless initiative is here to try and come up with some proactive ideas on how we can address that.
Yes, sir.
So as Abe knows, I'm from Santa Barbara, California. We have an incredible homeless problem, have had for years. What I'm seeing here is a reaction instead of a solution. What's our 10-year plan? And I know how you and I are aligned on this quite a bit, but putting a camp up does nothing. I know it solves the legal aspect and legal problem for law enforcement, but what's the actual solution? What are we looking at 5 years, 10 years from now? I think that's really the question here. We are one of the wealthiest counties in the nation. We have resources. I see what you do on DCCF. We can apply some of that same methodology. Let's start doing it. The community needs to be involved with law enforcement, with these churches and the help centers. We all need to come together, but putting them in an encampment, we all know that that's a short-term fix.
Really good comment. My goal as one commissioner is to make sure that there is not one single homeless individual or panhandler on any intersection or any median in this entire county. I want to make sure the law enforcement in this new HEART team, I want to introduce Tammy, who's one of the new HEART team members from the sheriff's office. I want to give them all the legal tools that they have to make sure that that's a reality. Thank you for that question. Any other responses from our panel to that?
I have one. My name is Dan McKelkey. I'm the Human Services Director for Douglas County. And we are doing a number of proactive things here. The answer to is not just considering a shelter. We're ensuring that people that are arrested that are chronically mentally ill are leaving once they're stabilized on medication. We're making sure that they have their prescriptions to go wherever they're going to go. So we don't reintroduce a mentally ill person in crisis back into the community just so they come right back. We partner with our faith-based communities. We partner with the schools. We are doing a number of proactive things to try and curb as many of the homeless families and individuals as we can. So I do want to make sure that you guys know that this is not just the thing that we're looking at. And again, as Commissioner Layden said, we haven't even decided if this is an option. We're considering it, but I am being compelled by this board to make sure that all of the tools that are available to all of us in this county are being utilized.
So we have literally hundreds of questions online. I want to give a few more people here in person, but then give it back to the folks online.
Excuse
Yes,
me,
ma'am.
if I could just have a minute here. I would just like to say I'm Laura Thomas. I'm a county commissioner. And you know, the jail has been doing a lot of things, medication assisted treatment. I know the commissioners have been funding that for years. Dan just talked about the things that we have been doing for years. We've had the Winter Shelter Network, Aaron White here. We have had a program from October to April where families, mothers and children can go to a different church every night and have a safe shelter. They can have a meal. They can leave in the morning with sack lunches. So don't think that Douglas County hasn't been addressing the problem. We have been working on this for years. Last month, the commissioners did vote to fund an integration officer. So when someone leaves the jail, like Chief Duffy said, they can get a ride to their home. That's where people want to be, is back home. So the commissioners have funded that. We have funded these 3 teams to go talk to people who are homeless and see if they want services and help them get those services. I think that the commissioners, this is as one commissioner, let these programs we have in place work, see what impact they have, and then let's develop a plan. This gentleman talked about a 5-year, a 10-year plan. Let's look at a plan after we see what we've already put in place and see how those things work. We have the community response team, so when someone is mentally ill, they can get the help they need. Those teams have been in place for 5 years. We have got 4 teams right now, and the commissioners have voted to use ARPA funds to double 5 teams. Now, Lone Tree, thank you, Chief Wilson. The commissioners voted to start using those ARPA dollars to look at doubling the number of teams we have for mental health programs here in this county. So there are a lot of things going on. And I would like to see this board not invest in any pallet shelters right now, not invest in buying land for a shelter. Let's see what we have in place, how it's working, and then work together from there. I think that educating the community about not handing money out the window to people, that's dehumanizing to people, I think, in the first place, and it perpetuates a problem. So let's work together, but I'm not in favor of buying shelters right now, buying land right now. Let's see what's in place and how that works. So thank you for your time.
We have a question right here in the back, and then we'll go online.
So before I get started, I just want to say, I don't think most of us or any of us are heartless. We recognize that there's an issue in America when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to addiction, and when it comes to mental illness. And some families in this audience, including mine, have been, affected by this. Addicts only learn by hitting their head, and some people hit it harder than others. Now, when it comes to homeless for women and kids, let's take care of that. I support that 110%. What I don't support is enabling. And, there are 2 branches of law when it comes to homelessness in America. Laws designed to get the homeless aid, shelter, and food, and those that are designed to help criminalize. And when you're dealing with homeless, I'm assuming you have to make that call. The case that's been cited in the news for why in the 8th Amendment is the people versus why mold. Anyhow, it's about the 8th Amendment, and it discusses the prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment when shelters are not available. But we as a society also have a right to feel safe where we live, and that's important. And the other thing is the Colorado Coalition of the Homeless. The CEO is John Parvinsky. He makes over $300,000 a year. His right hand makes over $260,000 a year. That agency's budget is over $80 million a year. For COVID funding, Colorado received over $200 million. In recent stats, there's 10,000 homeless in Colorado. 200 million divided by 10,000 means each homeless person in Colorado is valued at $20,000. Where's that money going? To me, those are things to think about. We have resources in our state. We need to use them wisely. Anyhow, those are my 2 cents.
Thanks, ma'am. Good comments. Let me turn it to Roger so he doesn't shoot us all here in the room. I know there's hundreds of people online that are trying to get in.
All right, let's hear next phone call from Irene. Irene, go ahead.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much for taking my calls. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for Sergeant Mike Duffy for an excellent report on that. And my question is, can commissioners of the Douglas County negotiate with nonprofit private companies together with federal and state to fund to build housing for low income and seniors so they don't end up homeless? I understand something similar was already being done in California, and it was very successful. Thank you very much.
Well, that was directed to commissioners, and I'll just be real clear. I'm not interested in creating residential communities for the homeless or tent cities. I'm just not. You get what you incentivize. Yeah. Hey, Roger, are those? Yeah, he's shaking his head. Apparently they are. I know I heard one question from Atlanta. I had to pause for a moment on that. But no, I don't believe in that. Just want to give our heart team every tool to make sure that your corners and intersections and your public byways are free of that kind of debris that we're seeing all over. I mean, you made a good comment. You're from Santa Barbara. I've been there several times, and you see the tents on the sidewalk. I mean, when I testified in the Senate, you look at Civic Center Park or the library next door, and you can't go and even get a book because it's just overrun with people experiencing homelessness. I refuse to allow Douglas County to become that kind of environment. So I know we got a lot of questions here. Yes, Jennifer, did you have another answer for that question?
Well, I did hear the caller refer to affordable housing. And one of the things that I would like to say regarding that is that we are looking at a full continuum of housing. Affordable housing has been something that the Douglas County has worked very hard on for a very long time now. And it is something that we're adding units at, about anywhere from 200 to 500 units a year. Affordable housing, as you can imagine, is a little bit challenging in Douglas County. And for the homeless population, or for those who are at the very low income level, it is that much more challenging. The typical affordable housing that is provided is at 60% of area and median income. For those of you, just to give you a little reference, that's about 50,000 for a family of four. For those who are experiencing homelessness, it looks more like under 30%. So it's a much lower price point, and it's more difficult to do. But we are working with partners to try and establish ways that we can create more transitional housing and very low affordable housing.
So Roger has an online question. I want to try to get through as many of these hundreds of folks as we can.
Right, thank you. Kay asks, says, we need to pass a no panhandling bill. Is that possible?
So maybe Amy wants to speak to the legal and the code enforcement on that.
Sure. No is the bottom line. Essentially, panhandling is, you have a right, it's a First Amendment right, a freedom of speech, and it's considered a freedom of speech. You can curb panhandling in certain areas that have been designated dangerous for someone to be present on. You cannot ban panhandling. It's a freedom of speech. But what you can do is if there's an area that has been designated dangerous for someone to be standing on, such as like a median that's very narrow or unstable, with traffic coming, or that it causes an impediment to the traffic flow, then by showing, like through studies or through working with the law enforcement, that's been a danger and there's been calls or close calls, then we can, enforce that. But as far as a blanket ban against panhandling, you cannot.
Well, this is so good. So what we're asking all the municipalities to do is have uniform code enforcement. So we already have a camping restriction, but that only applies to county property. So you cannot camp on county-owned property. No, I know. I know. So going to the panhandling issue, it's still a crime in Douglas County to vandalize, to have a baby in a median, to urinate and defecate in the middle of a street. So if there are crimes occurring associated with that panhandling, absolutely, to Amy's point, they can get engaged. Now, if you just have an individual with a sign, the law doesn't differentiate between somebody holding up a political sign on a corner of a sidewalk and somebody saying, hey, give me money. Now, this is what I put out to the public, but I've had a small epiphany. As silly and uninformed as I may be at times, or you may perceive me to be, I think the key issue is not handing money out of your windows. Not handing money out of your windows, but citizens are generous and they're conflicted. You stop at an intersection, what do? Our signs will say, donate to the Douglas County Community Foundation. That way you can be as compassionate as you want. It's a trusted resource, but you're not giving that money out of a window. Because to the point made by Chief Duffy, in Denver, they're not doing that anymore. The homeless now know that they're not going to get $100 out of a Mercedes in Denver. You know where they get that? Right here in Douglas County. So our communications piece, that fourth C, is helping to educate the public about that. So hearing room question. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Jay. First thing I'd like to say is thank you to law enforcement for the job that you guys do. We really appreciate it, and you don't get told that enough. Secondly, there are 3 commissioners in Douglas County. As a resident of Douglas County, and correct me if I'm wrong, the chair position is rotating on a monthly basis. Is that correct or no? Mr. Teal? Okay, how does it work?
Commissioner Layden is the chair of the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners.
I can help.
Okay, that's just,
Well, I don't want to do it.
yes.
I'm happy being the vice chair. And then there is another chair another candidate for chair who is actually not eligible because she's not ethical.
Okay, who is that?
Do I need to explain ethical?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I'm talking about Laura Thomas. Commissioner Thomas is not ethical. Commissioner Thomas is not ethical option for sheriff of Douglas County. She is not an ethical option for the chair of Douglas County Board of County Commissioners. You wanted the answer.
Thank you.
That's the answer.
Thank you, sir. I think I got the answer that I was looking for. As a citizen of this county, she is one of 3 commissioners. I want her voice heard. I want all 3 of your voices heard. I do not want you 2 excluding her. Okay, so the homeless situation. For 33 years, I want to tell you where I stand. For 33 years, I've headed a group that provides Christmas gifts to 150 to 175 kids at Warren Village downtown. So I've got empathy for the homeless. But I have firsthand experience. I have a younger brother who is now deceased, who is one of the most talented individuals I've ever met. He could build anything with his hands. He was a builder by trade. Instead, because of an alcohol addiction, he lived in a homeless camp. He was perfectly capable of working for a living. Instead, he drank a case and a half of beer a day. I'm telling you how that group works. My brother and I looked into it very closely. It happened to be in the Portland area, but it works the same everywhere. That community, they teach each other how to live off the public dole. And if you make life easier for them, I absolutely guarantee you're creating a magnet. And I live in Douglas County for a reason, and I don't want that crap here. Send it back to Denver where it belongs. Thank you.
I think that's a really good point, and being able to move people from medians is exactly what we can do through this program. And I appreciate that. Let me add.
I want to clarify something that you said, because it's a little confusing to me.
Okay, so this gentleman had a couple of questions and comments, but no, that's okay. Did anybody else have any responses to that? Okay, yes, ma'am.
I just want to clarify, because this is a little confusing. So you're saying that the police can't do anything to move these guys along unless we have some kind of encampment? Oh, I'm sorry. But it seems to me that all of the things that you were saying, you guys are already doing your job. You're arresting these people. I mean, you said quite a few different things about, how many different types of ways, the different types of people that you see. It seems, and the program, the heart program, I mean, it seems like you're already doing the job anyway. So why can't we move them? Or I mean, it's to me, you're saying two different things here.
So we do move them along, right? When we can legally move them along, and it's usually with consent. Okay. You've been asked to move. We need you to move. Where do you want to go? I'd like to go back to Denver. Let us help you with that. Jump in our car. We'll drive you to the light well. We'll buy you a ticket. Off you go. That happens every day. There's times where, no, I don't want to leave. Okay, well, you got to leave here because you've been asked to leave here, right? Off they walk, right? They've committed no crime, and now they're doing what is asked. So that happens all the time too. We have to be able to protect, we are bound by the Constitution and protecting people's rights. We can't just force people to do something. They're looking at, part of the shelter idea is options for law enforcement of this person doesn't have any place to go, doesn't want to be here, but I don't have any other place to go, right? There's an option, okay? I don't know if this is the right option. I live in Castle Rock. I've been working for the sheriff's office for 33 years, and I'm a resident of Castle Rock. I hear exactly what you're saying. And we've talked about this on the homeless initiative, that the citizens of Douglas County are going to have pretty much the same idea of we're compassionate, we're not heartless. I just don't want this in my neighborhood. And we're hearing that. And I can tell you the commissioners are hearing that, and they're taking that into consideration. That's why I don't think any decisions have been made. I don't want to speak for the commissioners, but so we're just here to hear from the public. But to answer your question is almost all the time, they will concede to what is asked of them. If they're committing a crime and we can charge them because the owner or the person who's called us will testify and say, yes, I want them charged because they've trespassed on my property. Okay, we have no compulsion to make an arrest. Doesn't happen a lot because they always tell us, I don't want anybody to go to jail. I don't want anybody to get in trouble. I just want them to move along. We go there. We tell them that, and they comply. You're 100%. It is certain things that have been, like Commissioner Thomas says, we've been working on this for a long, long time. So things are working, but we're looking, and to talk to the gentleman over here, we're not looking at today, we're looking at 5 years from now. How do we keep it from growing to where it's out of control? And that's what I think the homeless initiative is trying to answer. So some things are working well. This heart team is a genius idea, to where we're going to partner with Jennifer's team, law enforcement team, Kirk Wilson, the sheriff's office. We're going to partner to where we keep different resources out there to not let this get out of control. But it's growing, and we're just trying to find every solution that we can so that we keep our community safe and the way we want our community to be.
If we could just, excuse me, ma'am, we are waiting for a polling question, and we've been waiting for this because we want to get people before the Avs game starts. So Roger, do you want to talk about the polling question, please?
Thank you, Commissioner. It's easy to participate. All you have to do is use your telephone keypad to enter the number of your response. If you're participating online, just click your response. And for those of you here in the hearing room, we've passed out paper copies. Please mark your answer now, and we'll collect them on the end. If you don't have a paper copy, Caroline is coming around now with them. All right. Here are the questions. Here's the question. From strongly agree to strongly disagree, please rate the degree to which you support the general philosophy of the homeless initiative. as explained tonight. Press 1 for strongly agree. Press 2 for agree. Press 3 for neutral. Press 4 for disagree. And press 5 for strongly disagree. Thank you very much, and I'll hand it back to the commissioners to take more questions.
Okay, I see a gentleman with the blue shirt on in the front. We are not. I know Larry. Hi, Lawrence. Lawrence, how are you?
Thank you. Chief Duffy, you seem to have all the data we need for Douglas County to send Denver the bill for all the people they ship up here. Sue them. This can be addressed. They need to be incentivized to quit the behavior they're doing now. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Anybody on the panel want to respond? Okay, other questions in the room? Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that.
I would like to know how this is going to affect our property values and what benefit this has for our community in building this tent city.
I'll start, and great question. So a lot of this is about property values, right? We have a reputation for being a clean, safe, healthy county. What happens when people come here and they see people experiencing homelessness or panhandling on every single intersection, on sidewalks, in front of your stores? The purpose of this Douglas County Homeless Initiative is not to focus on homeless, it's to focus on initiative. Help the HEART team, law enforcement, and our navigators do their work, engage with individuals safely, and then move them along out of our county and keeping our county safe and clean. So by doing that, I think we end up with a cleaner community and your property values continue to go up. Anybody else on the panel want to respond to that? Okay. Yes, ma'am. You have a question.
I do. It's more of a statement. I work in that bad old place called Denver. So I see this every day, and I want to thank y'all for sending them back to Denver, but I get it. I work at the federal courthouses down there, so I see the carnage every day. We do move them. The Denver police will move them, and they don't require them to have a place for them to go, because I'll come in on Monday, there'll be 2 tents. Come in Tuesday, 5 tents. It'll go to a 2-block area where they're just overwhelmed down there. So Denver will come in, and city workers, and they get the bulldozers and they just get them out of there. They just make them move on. Now they will come back, eventually, and then they have to do it again. So you kind of have to nip it in the bud and not let it get to that point, because Denver is out of control. And it's horrible what we see. They like to use my courthouse as their porta potty. They use the halls of justice for that. You don't want that here. I don't want that here. We've lived here since '92. And believe me, when I leave work and head south to Douglas County from Denver, I'm pretty happy to get home. So that's all I had to say. But we can move them. We don't need anything for them to go.
Anybody want to respond to that? Chief Tuffy?
One of the things that I want to point out is I've been watching this for years. So I'll watch the sweeps. We hear it all the time on television. We see it. Denver will come in and do a sweep. Aurora will come in and do a sweep. But you always have to ask yourself, because I've been asking myself, where are they going? And I will tell you, it's not a coincidence that the minute the bigger cities with the biggest homeless populations started coming in with this massive enforcement, it was like they dropped a hand grenade in the middle of this, and it went to every rural area. Thornton, Broomfield, Douglas, Jeffco, everybody's dealing with this because the main core of the population now has been blasted out. And so we're feeling the residual effect of those sweeps.
Commissioner Layden,
Amy.
if I may make comment. So, ma'am, I just wanted to point out that Denver does have shelter. so they can move them along. Right.
Yes, but they don't want to go. They're quite happy doing drugs and crimes. They do not want to go. You can put them in there, they'll be right out the door. They don't like
That's, I agree. That's a really good point. You get a lot of people that are service resistant. And so if you have a place for them to go, the heart team can say, move along. That's the secret sauce. Can we do more in the room, or what are you saying, Roger? Phone. Okay. Phone question.
Let's take Lori's question. Lori, go ahead. You're live with our audience.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, I've heard that these pods have already been built or purchased. Is that true?
No. So what we have done is in a work session, we have directed staff to bring that forward to a business meeting. The Board of County Commissioners would then make a determination at that business meeting whether or not to move forward. Well, and I see. They can't hear you online.
I said, but it's 2 against 1, and it's been 2 against 1 for a long time. I'm not in favor of any one person. I am in favor of what this man said. All 3 people should have a voice, but you 2 have already decided, from what I've read, that you're for it. That's what I've read, and so it doesn't matter what Laura says. So, there you go.
Well, so I realize that you've probably read a lot of political propaganda, you know? So here's my view, and I'm going to be real candid with you. I'm just a regular dad. I don't need a title, and if I'm not your guy, don't vote for me. I've never had an enemy in the world, but I have never encountered somebody more divisive and unethical than Laura Thomas. So I don't support her in any way. But in this, Mike, we know you support Laura. We get it, Mike. Listen, for 4 years, I've seen Laura populate this hearing room with those that support her. I get that. Listen, I get it. Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate that comment. I'm not going to lose my temper. The reality is, I agree. I want to keep this county clean and safe, but we've heard over and over. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we need to have a place in our county that is clean. Ma'am, you just asked me to answer a question, all right? You've interjected and interrupted probably 10 times. I'm going to answer your question, okay? My answer to the question is, I believe in law enforcement. Unlike Laura Thomas, I didn't dox people at a political assembly. I support law enforcement, 100%. These people are putting their lives on the lines. So here's the deal. Ma'am, is it okay if I answer the question? I'm going to answer the question. I support the heart team and I support law enforcement. What I've been told by legal, ma'am, if you're going to continue to just interrupt, then I can't really answer your question. Yeah, because she threw law enforcement under the bus, and I don't tolerate that. I don't tolerate that. Maybe you're okay with that. I support law enforcement 100%. They can't do their jobs unless we are following the law. Like we heard in Denver, there has to be a location. Ma'am, please. All right. Am I going to answer the question or not? Here's the deal. I back the blue. So in order to back the blue, we need to follow the law. They can't go to corners and medians and intersections. Ma'am, that is literally the 5th time you've interrupted me. So I'm going to ask you to just give me a moment to actually respond. Okay. Again, like I said, what I said is I support the blue. They can't do their jobs unless we follow the law. So I'm following what our legal counsel has provided as direction for us. That'd be great. That's your job. That's all of us working together to change the law. Listen, if you told me tonight that law enforcement could move people along without sheltering, I would support it in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Other questions? Online question.
All right, here's a question from Julie. Julie asks, where is funding coming from for the homeless initiative?
It's a great question. It's not from the general fund. Zero of this is coming from your local tax dollars. These are your federal dollars coming through ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. So zero here. It is absolutely still resources from the federal government. Should we, Roger, do you want questions online or in the room?
We have a phone question from Richard. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering if you guys considered any other approaches besides building the shelter out. I certainly understand what you're trying to do here. It sounds like to me that if we don't pass some sort of sheltering initiative, you're letting the homeless population write what's going to happen in Douglas County. Whereas if we do, then we have a way to write our own narrative as to what happens with the homeless here. So I think it makes sense. I was wondering though, if maybe instead of building shelters, we just do a rezone. I mean, we got all these green belts all over the place. Just let the people chill there.
Anybody on the panel want to address that?
This is Dan McKelkey again from Human Services. We are doing other things. Commissioner Layden referenced it in the very beginning. We did get a federal grant of $1 million to be able to provide community supportive living and transitional housing with Arapahoe County through the family tree. What the program is called Goals. That will be one of the only things in this region that really has a multi-layered reinforced program for families. And the program will offer whole person care, including medical and dental and job training in order to help families get back on their feet. We are awaiting the dollars to come in, and once they are, the construction will be done, and we hope to have families living in there by the end of the year.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Roger, you have an online question for us.
Yes. Now I've lost it. Here we go. Sorry. All right. Elizabeth writes, what are citizens supposed to do if when homeless people start pitching tents in our community on Douglas County property, such as right-of-way or in open spaces, etc.?
So that's the perfect hypothetical. Ideally, this summer, you will be able to call the HEART team. Again, it's that Homeless Engagement Assistance Resource Team, which is law enforcement paired with a navigator that can go out and address that issue directly. You're not rolling down your window. You're not getting out of your car. So that HEART team is going to be fantastic. Yes, ma'am. Hi.
Hi. Thank you. I just want to say that I think that the shenanigans between the three commissioners should stop at this point going on in this room, because that is not our issue here. The issue is, what are we going to do to keep the homeless housed, and how are we going to move them into housing? There are programs. The program that you're looking at, the pallet shelter program, is a great case management piece to that. It's an amazing program. I read one of the proposals, however, that was you were going to buy the buildings for sleeping, but no bathroom facilities. That's not going to work. We aren't going to have anything better than we have now. And so I am in complete support of providing some shelter with case management so people can move forward in their lives through many times through absolutely no fault of their own that they're in those situations. So I support pallet shelter program, but you gotta have sanitary facilities to go with it, or it's just a waste of time.
It's a great question. I agree. No shenanigans. Let's focus on governance. The reality is, what's really cool about the pallet shelter is that you can't even buy them unless there is case management. So for us, we could set our own ground rules around sobriety checks. You have to have a job application in place, mental health counseling, substance abuse counseling, job counseling. So you can get a job right there. And that's camouflaged, aesthetic, clean, safe, secure, and not seen. In the meantime, well, and who would like to speak to the bathroom issue? I don't know if Commissioner Teal, you any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I voted against including the bathrooms. I joined Commissioner Thomas in voting against that, in case you didn't know that. And my feeling is then that those require water and sewer connections, just like your houses. And so my concern was that would establish a permanence to any purchase with pads. So we'd go ahead and we'd set them up, we'd build them, and actually, even if they work great, they'd still look a lot like what Mr. Campbell envisions they'd work with. So I voted against including the bathrooms. I think that makes the shelters too permanent. And listen, part of the reason why I was in favor of the shelters is they could be used for other things. They're actually designed to be fire response shelters for teams that are out fighting forest fires. You could put them up, you could take them down, you can move them around. I felt if we put in bathrooms, that was going to establish too much permanence to any solution that we have.
So where are they going to use the facilities at? Outside? At the gas station? Where will they do that, Mr. Teal?
I'm kind of, having been in the Army for 10 years, I used a lot of porta potties.
Okay, so, but you're not talking about porta potties. You said we're not going to have any of that. Great. If you're going to put porta potties, then that's wonderful. Then you need to publicize that with your plan, because you can't just put people up in a building and not give them a place to use the facilities, because you will just
agree.
have them
I
back.
agree. That's common sense.
Well, yes, but you're voting against the bathroom. So that, and you're not giving us a plan as to how you will allow these people to use facilities.
Yeah, I voted against the bathrooms bought from pads because those require water and sewer hookups.
Ma'am, that's a good point. And I apologize if that was not clearly articulated. I think the idea is permanent plumbing and electricity, but no doubt basic needs. Our view is that this is not their forever home. This is sand in your gears. You have to have a sobriety requirement, job application in place, got to be out of sight and moved along. But maybe I apologize if that wasn't clear from the way we discussed it the other day. Okay, thank you for that. Other questions in the room? Is that okay? Okay. Yes, sir. You had your hand up for a while.
Yeah. Thanks. I keep hearing a recurring theme here from everybody that most homeless people are coming out of Denver and not Douglas County. So question would be, if we set up a homeless camp in Douglas County, what's going to prevent a reintegration program from Denver and sending all the homeless people out here? Our beds fill up and then we're right back where we were, unless you would put more money into building a bigger homeless camp. Right? And then, so I don't know what your solution would be for that. And do we have a long-term funding solution for this, or is this, we're funding it through some money, but what are we going to do long-term? You know, if you put the homeless camp up here, is this going to be a short-term 2-year homeless camp and gone? Or is this like, they're going to ship them in from all over Denver and different counties to now to Douglas County?
So great question. Like you, I think we're numbers people, and it comes down to, if this works like we want it to and we get to functional zero, that point in time count is going to get lower and lower and lower every year. Now, if it goes up, then it's failed and we're not going to be pursuing this at all. But in the meantime, we're not going to use any of your general fund money for this project. We're not going to raise taxes for this. We don't need to do it. This is purely short-term ARPA pilot. To your point, and Chief Duffy's, a lot of those individuals from Denver, first of all, they're transient and they're service resistant. So having those facilities allows the HEART team to say, move along.
Fills up, sends all their homeless people to us, and fills our filter up.
Right.
They know they can send them here. They don't want them down there. We already know that. They're moving them out of there.
CJIS statute. Does anybody on the panel want to speak to that?
I think my response would be, we're already seeing that happen, not because of any shelter or anything, but the northern agencies are using the light rail like an underground railroad. They're shoving them all on the light rails, pushing them south. We're shoving them all on the light rails, pushing them north. And we're playing this tag game. And one of the things that I believe has to happen is, this isn't a Douglas County problem. This isn't a Denver problem. This is a metro-wide rural problem, and our leadership needs to start working together with solutions so that we don't start ping-ponging back and forth, because that's what you're saying is really already happening. That's where we're seeing 90% of our contacts when we go out and contact them. Where are you from? Denver. How'd you get here? Light rail. Where do you want to go? Well, I'd like to go back to Denver. Okay, we're going to help you with that. Let's turn around. Let's take you over to light rail. We'll put you on the light rail. Off they go. So it's already kind of happening. I don't know if they would necessarily start pushing them down here because we have a shelter, because they have a lot of shelters. The one thing that I will tell you, talking to the homeless, they will tell us, and this is a disturbing part that we're having to deal with on the street. The homeless will tell us, I would rather stay in the bushes in Douglas County than in a shelter in Denver. Why? Because it's safer, right? So part of the solution is these bigger cities that have these shelters need to start doing some real work to clean these shelters up and getting these shelters under control, because that's already happening down here, where they're coming down here and they're becoming our problem. And that's what we're dealing with. So we're trying to work with solutions on that. And all 4 law enforcement agencies in Douglas County are dealing with this, and we're working together to try to solve this for us. But it is a big problem that's affecting us coming from our big cities.
So I'm going to turn it back to Roger. Sounds like there's an online question, but I know
Actually, if I may,
go ahead,
if I may,
please.
Abe, we're starting to run low on time, and we can keep going here in the room, but we're starting to run low on time online. And so obviously there's been a lot of talk here today. I don't feel like I've had an opportunity to participate much in that. I feel like there's been a lot of words put in my mouth. I will not be voting for Commissioner Thomas to be a chairman, ever. However, hey, guys, hang on. Here's the punchline. I actually agree with Commissioner Thomas, though, on this subject. Listen, it was very important for me to make sure that we had the jail transition officer put in place, because the primary reason for the homeless issue in Castle Rock that was presented to the county commissioners by members of our panel was people getting out of the jail and having nowhere to go. We funded that, so I'm pretty good with that. I like the heart teams. I like the idea that they're out there doing reconnaissance for us and finding where the homeless are actually at in this county. Those who want some variety of care, great. We know where they are. We know where to find them. Okay. Hey, just said, hang on. Everybody didn't hear you. You just said, we did our job. Let's leave it at that. Okay. Matter of fact, Dan, Jen, you may stop work on the purchase order for pads. Amy, could you please let Lance know that there is no reason to continue to work at this time on that contract with pads? To go back to the original question, no, guys, I've never been in favor of a homeless camp. I've never been in favor of doing a homeless solution at all here in Castle Rock. My friend Abe, my colleague, I was absolutely willing to see where the planning could go. And I'm still willing. Folks, you got to understand something. If government is not planning for anything, we're being stupid. So I'm willing to entertain the planning to keep going. But I'm kind of satisfied where we are right now. I hope the homeless initiative will keep moving. We'll keep looking for solutions. I do hope the heart teams give us that information that will help our law enforcement partners to join us in this effort. Because I do think there could be a solution there that we should push for. We shouldn't have to live with unhoused people in our community when we all spend a lot of money having houses ourselves. That's where I'm at. We are in need of wrapping up at least the online portion, so I need to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Abe.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Teal. And I've heard a lot of great comments from you all tonight that will continue to inform our collective decision making. I'm going to stick around, even though we're wrapping up. If any of you have questions or want to talk to me for a little bit longer, I'm going to stick around for a while. I just want to let you know all of our Homeless Initiative meetings are open to the public, online and in person. Please come and engage with us, provide your input. We're going to continue to modify our decisions based upon the input we hear from you. But like I said, I really do believe in law enforcement. I believe in this HEART team. The number one solution, it isn't about sheltering. It's don't hand money out of your window. So we're going to try to communicate that really well throughout our county. But again, thank you so much for spending your time with us. More to come. We'll continue to have these sessions with you guys. Thanks.
So let me just finish wrapping up. I'm really pleased to see so many of you here caring about what happens in the future of our community. So thank you for being here. Let me apologize to you for what happened tonight, because being an elected official for all of you is the honor of my life. I want you all to know that I come to work every day, professional, prepared, and ready to serve each and every one of you. I'm a 26-year veteran of the State Patrol. I have funded every request for pay raises and things for our law enforcement. I support our law enforcement, so any comment that was made that I don't isn't true. So just know that I'm really honored to serve as your county commissioner. When you email me, I respond to you. When you call me, I respond to you, and I'm going to keep doing that because serving you is very important to me. So thank you, everybody, and God bless.
All right. On behalf of Douglas County, thank you for joining us this evening. If we did not get to your question tonight, we invite you to submit any question you may have about this or other topics to douglas.co.us/Citizen Connect. We hope you are able to join us for a future town hall, and we wish you a good evening.